in Ukraine, but we also recognize, as I was saying just a moment ago, that this is not flipping a light switch.
Question of failure in your approach. But your point has been, since the invasion of Ukraine, that it can't be business as usual with the Russians, regardless of whether any of these countries have long-standing, decades-long strategic military, economic ties with Russia and previously the Soviet Union. So isn't this business as usual? Isn't this not, I mean, India, after all, is a major non-NATO ally of the US. It's part of the Quad. It's, you guys are building a huge, trying to build the Indo-Pacific strategy around one of the three others.
If you take a step back, Matt, it is not business as usual, and we've heard that.
For the Indian, isn't joining a military exercise?
If you across the wider perspective, we have worked very closely with our Indian partners bilaterally through the Quad as well to signal, and the Indians have done so very clearly, what should be the inviolable principle of state sovereignty.
They've increased their imports of Russian oil. They've increased their imports of Russian fertilizers. They're doing these military exercises. They're about to buy, do what the Turks did, kind of, or Russian air defense systems. How is that not business as usual? That's the exact same thing that you've been telling countries not to.
It's not for me to speak to another country's foreign policy, but what I can do is point out what we have heard, statements from India. We have seen countries around the world speak clearly, including with their votes in the UN General Assembly against Russia's aggression in Ukraine. But we also recognize, as I was saying just a moment ago, that this is not flipping a light switch. This is something that, especially for countries that have historical relationships with Russia, relationships that, as is the case with India, extend back decades, it is going to be a long-term proposition to reorient foreign policy away from Russia.
This is just, you guys, you said it's not for me to speak to another country's foreign policy. You do that every day.
It is my job. It is my.
You get up here every day.
It is my job to speak to. It is my job to speak to our foreign policy. Sometimes there's a very close nexus between our foreign policy and that of other countries, Alex.
we are not doing it in a defensive way. I mean, we have been very open and very honest about our interest. You know, I have a country which has a per capita income of $2,000. These are not people who can afford higher energy prices. It is my obligation, my moral duty to actually ensure that I get them the best deal that I can from the world. And I think once you lay it out very openly and honestly, I think people accept it. They may not always appreciate it, but once you have it is there, and you're not trying to be too clever about it. You actually have laid out your interests in a very direct manner. My sense is that the world accepts that as a kind of reality.